Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Onos and today I'm going to show the build I'm currently working on. I've been asked a few times to do this. I'll be showing off where I'm up to with the build, the stats and skills, buffs, soul cores and even the fashion. First I'll show you a little showcase, just because I love these and the music is cool. Now before anyone gets excited, this is not an OP build. It won't one-shot bosses and I haven't made it for that purpose. That said, the footage just now was in the Winds of Ruin mission, was filmed on New Game Plus with level sync switched on. So while the build isn't overpowered, it's more than capable of handling anything the game can throw at you. The idea behind it is that it's fun to play, viable in any game setting, and also gives me the ability to switch between weapons mid-fight and have them both function well and synergize. I want to find a way to make it functional to switch between weapons for different scenarios. You don't need to do this obviously, as I'm sure you know. Focusing on one weapon is the norm, but personally I'm enjoying the process of learning how to weave stance changes and weapon swaps into rotation for a more advanced type of gameplay. I do need a lot more practice at this though, before I actually get good in real combat. I'm still quite clumsy right now. So bear in mind the build is not finished yet. It still needs some work to max out, but for now I thought I'd show you where I'm up to. What I'm trying out is a synergy between the hatchets and the sword. They both scale with skill. So what I've done is maxed out my courage and skill stats. I'm level 288 for reference. Then I dual remodeled the hatchets for courage and skill, and single remodeled the sword to skill. If you're unsure how this works, I did a video on the topic which will show you how. I'll link the video at the end. The primary weapon is hatchets and the most frequently used skills are Advancing Storm, Deadly Spiral and All Ablaze. Deadly Spiral is the hidden weapon art found from Shibata Katsui. What I've enjoyed doing is using paralysis to stop an enemy in his tracks, then quickly switch to the sword for an EI Quickdraw to one-shot him. If you time the weapon switch just right, you can begin the Quickdraw move immediately as you key pulse. I'm using the Urn Splitter hatchet and the Smirk Wiper sword, both from Shibata Katsui. This gives me a life bonus and a minus 10% damage reduction for when an enemy catches me out mid-attack. Next I'm using the Golden Gourd armor set. This is mainly for the damage buff on the Amrita absorption and the damage scaling with the Amrita gauge, which is now AAA scaling since the 1.09 patch update. What I've found is that with a few boosts to the Amrita gauge charge, this gets to maximum output really quickly, all while giving me self-healing from some of the other attributes I've rolled onto the armor set. I'm also using the Ravenwing rifle and the Warrior of the West bow for a bonus to life drain on bullseye and a life boost. The build is centered around high mobility, a lot of self-healing and some buffs which scale nicely as combat progresses. I don't like continually stopping to buff myself for basic combat, so it's nice to have a few buffs based on Amrita absorption, which happen naturally during combat. I've rolled attack on some pieces of the armour along with 3 Advancing Storm and 1 Deadly Spiral damage boost. As I said earlier, the build isn't finished yet. I'm still testing the damage to get the right balance for my playstyle. I also need to spend more time farming glue to roll some final inheritable stats onto the pieces. For now, I just wanted to make it functional. For the accessories, you'll need Yasakani and Tokichiro's gore to make this work, I have rolled paralysis, accumulation and melee damage against paralysed enemies onto both. The build at base level is quite squishy, so I'm using a combination of defense bonuses, Amrita absorption buffs and self-healing from Amrita absorption to boost my survivability. For Guardian Spirit I'm using Tengen. For the Amrita absorption buffs it gives me a nice damage boost while in high stance. I also get anima bonus on ranged hit, which lines up well with the Advancing Storm hatchet throw. I'm using Shooting Doji for the defense boost on Amrita absorption. I'm using the Umbrella Soul Core for the 10% increase in paralysis accumulation. And I'm using Magatsu Warrior for the active skill bonus. Given that I'm mainly using Advancing Storm and Deadly Spiral and EI Quickdraw, all of which are active skills, this lines up well. For the secondary Guardian Spirit I'm using Okuri Inu for the Amrita Gauge charge bonus, which lines up well with the Golden Gourd armor bonus to get me to full charge more quickly. Ignore the soul cores on this one, they were from an old build I was playing around with. You could also use Inner South South for the secondary Guardian Spirit if you wanted, for the extra mid-attack damage mitigation. My remaining stats other than courage and skill are distributed to Omnia Magic for capacity and buff duration, Heart for key recovery and Constitution. I've placed a few points in strength and stamina to make sure I stay in the A category for agility and also to meet some minimum requirements for Guardian Spirits. I've also remodelled my armour for a slight increase to defence, but this makes the armour slightly heavier every time I add +1 to each armour piece. The armour is around +6 at the moment and I plan to push that higher when I can. In terms of weapon skills, on the hatchets the main focus is Advancing Storm, which is the hatchet's throw you see in the showcase, and All Ablaze, which is a speed and damage boost. Bear in mind that All Blaze gives you a damage reduction in your defense. To counteract this I use a Steel Talisman on tougher fights, which stacks with the defense bonus from Shooting Doji on Amrita absorption. Other than Advancing Storm, Deadly Spiral and All Ablaze, the skills you pick are really up to you. Personally, the only other move I use, aside from the basics, is Spinning Crab, which is good for key damage on enemies. So this is a good move to do some damage, get you out of danger, and get a little healing at the same time. I've put my remaining skill points into plus attack to give me a +14. And I've also unlocked the passives for extra key, some grapple damage, and some additional damage when behind an enemy. For the katana, the only move I really use is EI Quickdraw. I occasionally use Flowing Shadow too. I need more practice switching weapons to really capitalise on this. Aside from that and points used to maximise the backstab damage, I've dumped the majority of my skill points into the plus attack for sword to give my Quickdraw more power. I have a few more skill points to get for the katana, so this can become even more powerful in the future. One quick thing to point out in the samurai tree, I have deliberately removed the skill point from flash attack. This is because when I make the switch from hatchets to the sword, what would happen is that instead of jumping straight into the quick draw animation, the flash attack would trigger, and instead of unleashing a quick draw, my character would do a fancy little spin with the sword and then get punched in the face by an enemy who, instead of being dead, was pretty angry with me for showing off. Now I'll show you quickly how this plays out in a regular Winds of Ruin mission without the dramatic effects. The mission was played on New Game Plus with level sync switched on. In this example I didn't manage to pull off an EI quick draw unfortunately, but this should give you an idea for the power of the build in a real setting. Again, the purpose here is to show you some real gameplay, not to show off an overpowered build or show you how amazing I am at the game. I'm still learning this new playstyle after spending far too long with a tanky Adachi build. Just before the fight I used the buffs All Ablaze, the Extraction Talisman to line up with my Amrita absorption buffs and self-healing. I used Steel Talisman for defense and Barrier Talisman for key energy regen. If you've enjoyed the video, please remember to like and comment as it helps the channel to continue its growth. Sub if you're new and I'll wrap it up after the gameplay footage next. Thanks for joining me, see you for the next one, stay safe, bye bye now.
Nioh. お主の力を見せてもらおう。なんのこれ好き。山場のようだ。
手加減抜きよ。本気でかかってきて。